sometimes life hits you with an unexpected blow when you are at your weakest. I'm 36 years old, and I've recently faced one of the greatest challenges of my life. Everything began when I embarked on this journey to fulfill my dreams. For years, I saved and worked tirelessly, striving to start my own business. By my side was the woman I loved, Avery. When I met her, I believed we could achieve this dream together. But as the days turned into years, marriage revealed a side of Avery I never anticipated. Before diving into my story, if you don't want your life to be turned upside down like mine, subscribe to my channel to learn real lessons from the real stories we share every day, just like mine. Also, share your thoughts about the shocking truths I've experienced in the comments, and please show your support by liking my video. Now that you've subscribed, let's dive into my story. Avery and I dated for a year and 4 months before getting married. In the beginning, she was supportive of my dream of starting my own business. She didn't mind when I worked late into the night or took on a second job to earn extra money. "I'm proud of you, John," she'd say with a warm smile, placing her hand on mine. "You're working so hard and I know it'll pay off soon." Her encouragement was like fuel to my fire, pushing me to keep going. I was convinced that she was truly by my side. But after we got married, things began to change. Her support gradually faded, and she even started making light of my efforts. "Maybe you should focus on something more stable," she'd say with a laugh, her tone playful, but I could sense the underlying seriousness. It stung more than I wanted to admit, but I was determined. I knew this was my dream, and I wasn't going to let it slip away. As we approached the end of our first year of marriage, I finally reached a significant milestone. A wealthy friend of mine agreed to invest in my business. This was a huge victory for me, and Avery and I celebrated that night with a lavish dinner. She seemed just as excited as I was, toasting to our bright future. But deep down, I sensed something had changed. My business, a logistics company, was now expanding. With the investment, I was able to purchase more delivery vehicles, bicycles, and trucks, allowing me to broaden my reach. "This is it, Avery," I told her one evening, my voice filled with optimism. "We're finally on our way to success." She smiled, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes, something I couldn't quite place. "I hope so, John. We've worked so hard for this," she said, but her tone was more cautious than enthusiastic, and I couldn't shake the feeling that her excitement was forced. Before the investment, our arguments were minor and typically resolved the same day. But after the money came in, our fights became centered around finances. Avery started to demand more: new clothes, a bigger house, vacations. "We can finally live the life we've dreamed of," she said, her eyes sparkling with materialistic hunger. But I tried to make her understand. "Avery, this money is for the business, not for our personal use. We need to invest it wisely to ensure our future success." Her response was far from what I expected. "What about my dreams, John? I've been supporting you all this time, and now that we have money, you're telling me I can't even enjoy it?" she snapped, her voice laced with bitterness. I was taken aback. This was the same woman who had once been my biggest supporter. "It's not that, Avery," I tried to reason with her. "We'll get there, but we have to be smart about this. We can't just spend everything before the business is fully off the ground." "I'm not asking for much, John, just a little bit to enjoy our life together," she insisted, her voice growing softer, almost pleading. The vulnerability in her voice threw me off, but I couldn't let myself be swayed. I tried to compromise, offering to set aside a small budget for her shopping while investing the rest in the business. But her demands only grew. Despite having her own income, Avery refused to contribute to household expenses. "You're the man of the house now, John. You should be taking care of everything," she said coldly one evening as she handed me the bills. "What's the point of all this success if we can't even live comfortably?" I felt a pang of betrayal. My business was still in its early stages, and taking on all the financial responsibilities was a burden I couldn't afford. "Avery, this isn't fair," I protested. "We're supposed to be in this together." "Together," she scoffed, her eyes narrowing. "It feels like I'm the only one compromising here." You're always talking about the future, but what about now? What about enjoying the life we've built? Avery's behavior began to have a detrimental effect on my business. Her constant demands left me unable to focus. Each month, I struggled to pay the rent, bills, and other expenses. It felt like I was taking one step forward and 3 steps back. Eventually, all my efforts came crashing down. The business collapsed, and I was forced to sell everything I owned to pay off my debts. My car, the delivery vehicles, even family heirlooms, everything was gone. All that remained were the shattered remnants of my dreams. When I was forced to shut down my business, Avery's true nature was fully exposed. If only you had listened to me and spent the money wisely, we wouldn't be in this mess, she spat, her words like venom. It was as if she had forgotten all the sacrifices I had made to build the life we had once dreamed of together. Do you even realize what you've done, John? We had everything, and now it's gone because of your stubbornness. As things worsened, she completely abandoned her responsibilities at home. Do your own laundry, cook your own meals. I'm done playing house with a man who can't provide, she said, turning her back on me. The late nights started to become more frequent. Avery would come home with expensive gifts, designer bags, jewelry, luxury items I knew she couldn't afford on her own. When I confronted her, she responded with disdain. How dare you question me? You're jobless, John? You can't even buy me these things, so why do you care where they come from? She snapped, her words stinging like a slap in the face. Our relationship had disintegrated into a cold, loveless existence. We were nothing more than strangers living under the same roof. A few months later, she finally said what I had been dreading. I want a divorce, she stated flatly. There was no emotion in her voice, no hint of the love we once shared. By then, I was too exhausted to fight. I signed the papers without a second thought. But what came next was something I never saw coming. Shortly after our divorce, I stumbled upon a photo of Avery. She was on a yacht, draped in luxury, and beside her was none other than my wealthy friend, the same man who had invested in my business. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. The late nights, the expensive gifts, the sudden desire for a divorce. It all made sense now. Avery had been using me, and when my business failed, she jumped ship to someone wealthier. A year later, I was slowly rebuilding my life. I had started a new business, and this time, I was more cautious, more aware. During this time, I met a woman named Crystal. She was a beacon of hope in my darkest days. Although our relationship never turned romantic, Crystal's unwavering support gave me the strength to move forward. She believed in me when no one else did, and with her help, my business began to flourish once more. Just as things were starting to look up, Avery returned. She called me out of the blue, asking to meet. I agreed, curious about what she wanted. When she walked into my office, I barely recognized her. The confident, vibrant woman I once knew was gone. In her place was a fragile, broken person. Bruises marred her face, and her eyes were hollow, filled with a sorrow I had never seen before. John, I made a mistake, she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. He's not what I thought he was. He's abusive, controlling. I can't live like this anymore. Please take me back. For a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy, but then I remembered the pain she had caused me, the betrayal, the humiliation. I looked at her, the woman who had once been everything to me, and said quietly, I need time to think. Her face lit up with hope, but I had no intention of taking her back. Over the next month, I kept her close, leading her to believe that there was a chance for reconciliation. She did everything I asked, desperate to win me back, but my mind was set. When the time was right, I cut her off completely, leaving her with nothing, just as she had done to me. Avery's life crumbled as a result of her own choices, while I emerged stronger, having learned the hardest of lessons.